Hey guys, welcome to another Shlog. We are back at it, hammering down. It is a beautiful day in western Colorado, and we are back after it. If you're new to this channel, what we do here is we film what we do all week here in western Colorado at a little motorcycle shop called Highland Cycles, and we put it up for you guys and we call it the weekly Shlog. That's what we're doing. If you like this stuff, make sure you hit the subscribe button, but give us time, watch the video before you make a decision. For all of you guys who've been around a long time, thank you so much for joining us again. And I gotta show you guys this. I'm so stoked. See this hat rack that says Dirt Bikes Matter? Haha, so cool. My buddy Gary built that for us just as like a present, which is so cool. Gary Glover, thank you, thank you, thank you. I cannot tell you thank you enough. I think it's super cool. Guys, in the comments below, let me know what you think about that. It's pretty cool. The wheel spins and the sign spins, and it's just awesome. So yeah, also while we're on the topic of hats, if you guys are interested in helping the channel out and supporting dirt bikes, we have dirt bikes hats for sale. I'll put a card right up here. There's also a link in the description to our merchandise site on Highland Cycles website. It's highland-cycles.com, and then it's under merchandise, but I'll put a link in the description. We got snapbacks and flex fits of both sizes. So anyway, enough of that crap. Let's talk about what's going on. Mr. Sheets having a lovely time battling. Hey, look at the face. So pissed. This thing's being a giant pain in the butt. Anything? Have we found anything?
Clearances are super high. The exhaust for like 13,000.
I shouldn't make it do that though. So this dumb thing starts, but it doesn't take throttle unless you're just super ginger on it. And I think we've checked all the carburation stuff. It's just being really weird. It's a CRF 150R, which is a pretty cool bike. So I don't know why this thing's being such a pain in the butt. Big exhaust valve clearances I don't think would make it do what it's doing. I don't know. So we're going to get into that. Quick update, guys, on the YZ144. Thomas and I have been down here working on it. Thomas helped me get the motor in the frame, the front end on, the shock and swing arm and everything on. So he will be back down. We actually ran out of some parts, and I got to fix a hole. Actually, I'm going to film that for you guys on the Shlog here. I got to fix a hole in the frame. This mounting hole for the radiator is stripped out, so we're going to put a helicoil in there so we can mount that radiator up. But if you guys haven't checked out the build playlist, put a card up here for that. We're basically, I was given this motorcycle by Roger Hurd, thank you Roger, for my son Thomas. It was in running condition, but it was rough. It had been beat on, so we completely tore the motor down. New crank, new piston, the cylinder was in good shape. Put a new Hinson clutch basket in it, completely built everything back up. Brady at TBT Racing in Oklahoma took care of the suspension for us. He revalved the shock and forks, got them set up for my son. Put all new bearings in the chassis, and yeah, now we're just putting her back together. So we're getting really close, actually. I'm really excited. Also, Nitro Mousse, thank you guys. They are sponsoring him a set of mousses for this. So we got tires. I'm just waiting on the mousses. We'll get those in here soon. And yeah, so that's what's going on there, guys. Got lots of good stuff going on this week. We, let's see what else is going on. The KDX 220 from last week, we're waiting on parts for that. The KX 500 top end bearing, I think will finally be here Thursday. It's been on its way here for way too long. So that should be here very soon. Doing a full chassis bearing grease and replacement on this KTM. The wheel bearings are junk, so we're replacing those. But the chassis bearings we're going to take apart, clean and grease and all that good stuff. Anyway, let's get on with the next job. All right, guys. So first thing on my left here is this WR250R, which is the fuel injected, kind of just cruise around dual sport version of the WR. Great little bikes, not super powerful, but just a great kind of entry level dual sport bike and super easy to deal with. But this one's doing something weird. It's got a weird hesitation when you get low enough in the throttle like low enough in the RPMs, and then just gas it. It hesitates, then goes. I have a feeling I know how to fix it, so why don't you join me along for this odyssey? Hopefully we can get this thing solved pretty quickly, and then move on to the next thing. Probably the next thing is going to be to fix the hole in that frame with a helicoil, but we'll start with this. Alright, so the idle sounds about right, but I think we can raise it up. There's a set screw. We can raise that up and then adjust it back down with another setting. So I'm going to start by filling with the idle air screw real fast. So you hear that? So right now I'm filling with, let me show you, see if I can show you. See that Phillips head right there? That is the idle air adjustment. So I think what's going on, it's just a little too lean, especially now that it's cold outside, because it's winter time. I don't know when you're watching this, but it's winter time for us right now. And so I think it's acting like it's lean, which it shouldn't. It's fuel injected, but it's not the smartest fuel injection in the world. None of these motorcycle dirt bike fuel injections are all that smart. So I think I actually like that idle better anyway. So I think what I'm going to do is put that tank back on there and take it for a little spin, see, but that might fix it. Just like richening up the idle circuit on a carbureted bike. That's already better. Yeah. I'm just going to slap the seat on and take it for a spin. I think we got her solved. Let me explain something to you guys about motorcycle fuel injection, dirt bike fuel injection to be specific, because the big street bike, even the sport bikes, they're all super fancy and really good. The thing about dirt bike fuel injection, even the brand new KTMs and stuff like that, although actually I think the brand new KTM does have an O2 sensor, but in general, they don't have O2 sensors on the pipe. So what they have is some sort of barometric pressure temperature sensor, and then maybe a mass airflow sensor, maybe, in the airbox, and then a computer, a fuel injector, and then the motor happens. And what happens is the computer takes the limited information of the barometric pressure, temperature, and mass airflow, if it has it, and makes a decision on the amount of fuel to provide to the motor. And then it goes, burns, whatever. Well, on a car or a fancier machine, things like that, there's an O2 sensor on the other side of the motor, the exhaust side, which tells it whether or not that guess was correct, whether or not that best guess on fueling was right. And then it adjusts back and forth. It's called a closed loop system. These are open loop. So they're kind of dumb. They're like a 70s or 80s fuel injection on a car. They're cool, they work pretty good, but they're not awesome. And then when you're dealing with something street legal, they lean them out even further to meet emission standards, and they run okay but not great. But anyway, I think we got that solved. We cut the air going to the throttle body, richened it up a little bit, and I think it's good. I might raise the idle up a little bit, but other than that, I think we're good to go. So next project, fixing a bolt hole in the frame of the YZ125. Hey guys, I know this is a change of scenery for the Shlog, but it is a beautiful Wednesday morning, and I'm out at Peach Valley. I'm actually kind of up out of the main parking lot at this other parking lot we like. Anyway, I just want to let you guys in on what we do on Facebook. If you don't follow us there, is I do conditions reports most winters. I don't do it during the summer because it's summer and conditions are, you know, usually good, at least in Colorado. Anyway, so I don't do it in the summer, but during the winter I try at least once a week do a conditions report from Peach or Dry Creek or anywhere around here so that you guys know if it's good to ride. I get lots of questions on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram about, you know, what the weather's like during January, what the weather's like during February. Well, it changes, and we get a lot of awesome weather during those months, and then we get a lot of snow sometimes. So yeah, it changes all the time. So first of all, you're more than welcome to call the shop, 970-240-2197, and ask me how the conditions are. I'd be happy to tell you. Also, if you don't yet, you should follow us on Facebook and Instagram, because I update, like I said, once a week we do conditions report, maybe sometimes twice a week. Also, we have a lot of fun over there. We have games and giveaways and things like that. And then obviously I think some of our memes are pretty awesome. So anyway, I better get to work. Zach's down there by himself, probably getting really angry, throwing stuff. So anyway, back to the shop. All right, guys, we're back at the shop. As I said before, we're going to fix this hole right there on this frame. It's stripped out. You can kind of tell that it's stripped out if you look at this one. Let's see, focus versus, where'd it go? That one. It's bigger. So that is an M6 by 1 hole that we need to fix. So we're gonna get our helicoil set out for 6 mil by 1 thread pitch. Got our helicoils now. Got our kit. When you're fixing these things, you really, if it's if you don't know, well, so depending on the size of the hole and all that stuff, sometimes you need to drill this hole before you then take the new tap and you know, tap it out bigger. Because here, come over here. Let's discuss exactly what a helicoil does. Because I don't know, maybe not everybody knows. All right, so the problem is that this was the bolt that went in there, and when it went in, as I turned it and I got it tight, it stripped out the holes in the frame. So the holes in the frame or the threads in the frame, excuse me, are no longer there. So what we need to do is effectively make that hole bigger and then smaller again. So we need to make it a little bit bigger so that this size, right, like, so the outside of this is what goes into it, so that then that necks it down for this bolt to go in here. So we check it, make sure, okay, it's good. And this bolt's kind of messed up too, so we'll dress this bolt up with a die. But so now we need to get this in here. If you get a thread repair kit, it's going to have the tap that's just a little bit bigger than the hole that you're trying to, you know, whatever, fix. And then that will accept these helicoils. So this is the actual Helicoil brand one, and it's pretty cool. I don't know if you guys can see it. You probably can't, but yeah, there's no way you're gonna, let's see, focus. You see those lettering right there? You guys aren't gonna be able to read it, but what it says is it's for an M6 by 1 hole, and then it tells you what drill bit to use, a 1/4 drill bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this by the book. Normally, honestly, I would probably just take this tap and run it in, because this is pretty mild steel and it would just go in and cut the threads. But we'll go ahead and do it by the book to show you guys how it works. I'm gonna take a 1/4 inch drill. All right. And the thing about this is that this steel is really thin, so that's probably why it's stripped out, is just the steel's thin and this thing's been apart and together enough times as being an old bike. But there we go. Now we got to get our tap and run that in there nice and straight. All right, so we got our tap in this chuck that just goes onto a ratchet, because I could use a tap handle and get it in here, but the ones I have are kind of too big and they end up bumping into the fork and all that. And honestly, the reality of this situation is this does not need to be that perfect. Hang on, phone's ringing. Highland Cycles, this is Morgan. All right, sorry, back to what I was saying before the phone rang. So I'm not going to get a tap handle. I'm not going to be super concerned about exactly how straight this is, mainly because it's just holding a radiator on, and that radiator is held on with rubber bushings that can allow things to move and not be perfectly straight. And it's a 2002 YZ125. And as long as that hole is got good threads and it holds the radiator to it, that's all I really care about. So, again, this is the super, like, I don't know. We're doing this the easiest, quickest way possible. All right, so we're going to take our tap. I'm going to try to hold this thing, and we're going to just start it, and we're going to try to keep it as straight as we can. And So one of the keys to doing this and not fouling these threads up is just taking your time. It also helps with a little bit of cutting fluid. Now, I don't have actual cutting fluid, and a lot of guys here on the interwebs like to mention that, right? And tell me that I don't have cutting fluid and that I'm doing it wrong. And fair enough, it technically is wrong. Because cutting fluid it holds up better, lasts longer on the hole. Anyway, it's better. But you know what? Something's better than nothing. And we're just drilling a hole that's not all that terribly important. So we're gonna take a little bit of lube. There we go. And we're gonna keep going. You can see in there, those holes look nice. Super stoked about that. Now, what we need to do is clean that lube the heck out of there so that we can put a little bit of Loctite on the outside of this helicoil and let that set up before we then put the bolt through it. Because what we don't want to have happen is when we put this all together, the next time we take the radiator off, we don't want the helicoil to come back out. Now, with a radiator, you know, hopefully you're not taking it off very often. But, you know, we want to do the job right if we can. So I'm going to go get some brake clean this thing out really good, get some Loctite, and I'll show you how we install that helicoil. All right, so I got the hole cleaned out, blew it all out with brake clean and then compressed air. So we got it all nice and shiny. Now we got our helicoil. We're going to take just a little bit of Loctite and we're going to put it on these threads. And then we're going to run this thing in. Now this is the installer that comes with the big kit that I have. If you buy a helicoil kit, it comes with its own installer. But these ones I like because you can set the depth that you want to. Now we don't need that really for this, but for this application. But it's kind of nice to be able to move this little depth, you know, gauge up and down. So anyway, let's get some Loctite on this thing. Come up here, and we're gonna. There we go. Just a tiny bit more. There we go. So now, if you look in there, let's see. Let me grab a flashlight. All right. So, there we go. If you look in there, you see the tang in there. We got to get that out of the way. But those tangs, there's like a little cut mark on the tang that makes it so you can knock it out of the way. Fortunately, because it's just going into the frame, it's no big deal if that tang just falls down in. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take the hammer, put it in, or take the, excuse me, we're going to take the punch, put it in there, tap it, and knock that tang off. I know you can see it, but you hear it. Now the hole's nice and clean. It's perfect. So there we go. Helicoiled, all ready to rock and roll. So if you're gonna run bark busters, which I do and I like, you gotta make sure this doesn't look like this. You can see where this is binding up on the thing, and same with the grip back here. So yeah. That's not awesome. So yeah, I'm gonna cut this back a little bit and slide the throttle tube in, and then that'll solve that problem. Then I'll push the next job up. All right, so next on the list is a YZ250, one of my favorite motorcycles. And a customer complaint is that it runs for a while, then it dies, just like someone turning it off. Then they have to wait for a little bit, and then they can restart it. Now, my initial thought is a stator, because they'll do that when they start to fail. They get hot, the insulation, the wires open up. Anyway, lose spark, cools down, everything's okay, goes back. Anyway, but so that's where we're headed, right? But and taking things apart, you want to look really closely at stuff. And I don't know if you guys see what I see immediately, but two things. One is the air filter is upside down because the shape of this air box, the part that sticks out should be up. So it's closer to here and then kind of, you know, angled down in like that. Also, you see that piece right there, it sticks out. It's because this air box has that shape. It's not round or oval. It's got like a little bump on it. So I am currently concerned about the engine. So we will see. Hopefully it hasn't been like that the whole time. It may have. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to take that out, look inside there, and see kind of what, hopefully there's not a bunch of dirt. 1 second. Let's take this air filter out and see what we see. It's definitely not perfect down in there, but I think he got lucky. If you look at this, it looks like it was sealing. But let's get a flashlight. It's pretty dirty. That's not great. Okay, so let's roll the kicker over, see how it feels compression wise. Alright, feels good. So I don't think that's our problem, but we need to sort that out and talk to the customer to make sure they understand. Alright, now I'm going to set you guys down, take this tank off, and then we'll start checking the stator. Okay folks, so we got the tank off, obviously. We got to the wires. So I'm going to take this as if I'm talking to someone who has no idea about any of this stuff. So if you are like Morgan, you're talking down to us, that's not on purpose. I just want to explain this for folks who don't know anything about how ignition systems work. So let's start with this. Behind here is the stator. There's a flywheel that spins around coils of wire. They produce electricity for spark, and then there's also a pickup coil that tells it when to spark. All of those they come out right here. There's 6 wires here. Well, so there's an energizing coil, a pickup coil, and then I think a high-speed coil. But anyway, so there's 6 wires. We're going to check them all for resistance while the thing's cold. And then if we don't find anything right away, we'll fire the bike up, run it, and check it when it's hot to see if anything changes. So it helps to have a manual. If not, you can definitely find this stuff online. The specs that you're looking for. So let's start with, we're checking the CDI magneto. If we need to, we'll go to the ignition coil and all that, but we're going to start here. So first we're going to do pickup coil resistance. So tester lead, the positive lead to the white-red wire and the negative lead to the white-blue wire. We're looking for between 248 and 372 ohms. If you guys like working on your bikes and all that stuff, having a nice meter is really handy. This one's a good one. It's a Blue Point, which means, you know, it's from Snap-on. When you're firing this up, we're going to put it on resistance because that's what we're looking at, that little omega there. And so for ohms, and then we're going to leave it there, we're going to turn it on. One thing I always do when I'm firing up my meter to check and make sure it's all working good is I take the 2 leads and I touch them together and make sure it goes to a real low resistance value, 0.1 ohms. That's perfect. We are checking the white-red lead and the white-blue lead. So that's up here, and that is going to be these 2 on this end, on the down here. So okay, that looks good. Next is the charging coil number 1. Again, these are charging coils for the ignition, not for a battery. This bike doesn't have a battery. They're basically exciter coils. So charging coil 1, that is black-red lead and black lead, and we're supposed to see between 720 and 1080 ohms. And here, quick little note. It tells you which one's supposed to be on which, positive or negative, but it doesn't matter, because if you have them backwards, all it's going to do is tell you negative that, so it doesn't matter what it does, like which way it goes. So it's 0.820 k ohms, which is 820 ohms, so that's in spec. Charging coil 2, green blue lead to green white lead, and we should see between 44 and 66. Okay, that's right on the money. Next thing to check is the spark plug. I'm going to take a look at the spark plug, also check the ignition coil, make sure that seems good. Plug looks pretty good. Focus. There we go. Definitely not super black or anything. Okay, folks, so compressor. Anyway, I haven't fired the bike up yet because something weird happened when I turned the gas on. I had the tank off, set it in whatever, and I turned the gas on, and all these bubbles went like, it was weird how the bubbles came out anyway. I was like, what the? That's odd. Like, it shouldn't bubble. Whatever. It shouldn't bubble like something releasing gas as it, air as it goes in. And then I was like, well, I wonder if this thing's plugged. Like, I hate these things. These stupid things are stupid. Turns out that's not. But if we look here, there's no way for this to vent. So I bet you anything, if we unscrew this, we're going to unscrew it, more bubbles come up. And that would make total sense if he was firing this bike up, riding it. It would run for a while, actually, because they'll actually run a long time on the gas that's in the flow bowl. Also, it's probably draining very slowly into there, not very well. And then it would die. And then it would take a long time to fill the carburetor back up because it's not draining fast enough. And anyway, I think we just found the problem. But I'm glad I got to show you guys how to check a stator, so that worked out good. Yeah, I think I'm gonna fire this thing up, take it for a ride. I have a feeling it's gonna work just fine. The job I'm just finishing up, I didn't film all of it, was I was putting mousses in this 2020 TE to this is a TE 250i. We have a customer who's really new to dirt biking. He's been riding mountain bikes for a long time. He's kind of deep into the mountain bike industry, but he's getting into moto. And he called me asking my opinions about tubeless versus mousses, and of course I said just put mousses in it if you don't want to have any problems. So that's what we did. Got that done. He's gonna be super stoked. But I wanted to show you guys something that I mentioned before, and I did a whole video on it about installing a front wheel. I know that doesn't sound like something that you need to like brush up on, but it is for some people. This guy, this is not on him. His bike was brand new. The wheel was perfect. But I want to give you guys a demonstration as to why we do what we do with the front wheel installation. So, when you're installing a front wheel, and it's less of a thing on a new bike like this, when the axle slides through all nice and smooth and clean and all that. But I'm going to exaggerate the problem so you can see what I'm talking about and why you've got to take your time and do this right. So, as you slide the wheel on, as you slide the axle in, you slide it in, and again, I'm exaggerating what's going on here because that way you can see what happens. But you can see how that axle is not all the way in. And this happens a lot for guys. They slide it in and it kind of binds up on the lug because it's older, it's rusty, it's whatever. So you slide it in. If this is, if that's showing that much, that means that the fork lug is in too far, which means it's not lined up this way. So it's kind of pinched and it's going to bind. Again, you may not notice because it's a dirt bike, you just go ride, you're having fun, you're popping wheelies, whatever, And the next thing you know, your fork seals are leaking and this and that, and they're like, what's going on? You know, you bring it to your local mechanic, they take it apart, the bushings are junk, maybe the fork tube is messed up. That's the problem. So let me show you what we do. So when I'm working on one of these, I'll slide the axle in, tighten this down, and then after I get this tight, even if it binds up like that, I get it tight, then I come in, let me loosen these up, and if we watch closely, watch that axle. See that? So that's that thing finding its home. Now, if your bike isn't brand new like this one, it may not do that when you loosen it up. So then what we do, climb up on her, and bounce up and down. Once you've done that, now you can go back, tighten all your pinch bolts. Once I get all those tight, I come back in here with my big wrench. I put one more just little like that. Good to go. Now, the forks are lined, the wheels lined, everything's good. You can go ride. You're not going to cause any damage to the fork seals or the bushings or any of that.
All right, guys, I know I normally do the sign off at the shop and I yell dirt bikes, but it got crazy this week and I didn't get a chance to film the final scene. So now it's 4:30 in the morning. I'm at home, I'm editing this thing, and I realized I didn't have my normal sign off. So super sorry about that, but I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching all this stuff. It really, really means a ton to me. The channel's growing and it's all because of you guys. I love it so much. I just want to say that I desperately hope you get out and spread the gospel of two wheels. And even though it's quiet, I've got a ton of enthusiasm. So I want you to understand that I really hope what we're doing here at Highland Cycles is inspiring you guys to work on and get out and ride your dirt bikes. Sorry, everybody's sleeping.